A lot of the eating habits that I've started implementing has been thoroughly beneficial, and it has nothing to do with dieting, nothing to do with restriction, nothing to do with any type of overwhelming thing. Like, these are legit habits that anyone could do. So if you are along your healthy eating journey and wanting to think of like habits that you could easily incorporate, here are 5 simple things that has tremendously impacted me for the better in 2024 that I'm bringing into 2025. So yeah, Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year to you. Wish you all the success, happiness, love, everything that you want for this year. So the first one is always having water with my meals. So honestly, I always have water with me. It is the first thing that I go to in the morning before I get any tea, before I start my work day. One thing that I do religiously is get me my apple cider vinegar, pour a capful into it, and then have my water in there. I don't like Florida water by itself, so one thing I always do is try to add something to it. So I either add lime, lemon, or lately it's just been apple cider vinegar that I add to my water. But when I have water with all of my meals, it makes it easier for me to reduce empty calories that I'm consuming from regular juice. And then it also helps me feel full faster. So I always have water around me, but when it necessarily comes to my meals, I do always try to have water next to me. I don't always drink it when it comes to having something for breakfast. So what I'll do is just drink it before I eat my breakfast, because I've never found water to be really good with any type of breakfast that I ever have. So I'll try to start my day with just drinking half of the cup of water first before I have any type of meal, especially because I try to stick to having my first meal around like 10:30, 10:45. I don't really try to have it earlier than that. Like, I create my own little window of when to eat. So I'll mainly just stick to having water in the morning. And then when I have like my breakfast, then I'll have my tea with my meal. But when it comes to dinner, because I mainly only eat about like 2 meals a day, I mainly drink seltzer water with juice for dinner, because I've been on this journey of not drinking liquor anymore. So I will be doing an upcoming video on that. And so lately what I've been doing is having my regular water with my seltzer water mixed with the juice. So that's just one thing that I do, of making sure I always have water with my meals, especially even when we go out to eat. I'll always ask for water, but most of the time I ask for seltzer water because, again, I don't like the taste of regular Florida water. And I know if we get regular Florida water and then I drink it and I don't like it, I most likely won't be having it. So I'd rather just get seltzer water to play on the safe side, because I know I have a higher chance of getting that. So whether I go out or stay in, one habit that I always make sure to do is always have water with me. Another habit I'm bringing into 2025 is monitoring how food makes my body feel. I specifically decided to add this one to it because this year I've added a lot of animal-based products back into my diet. So I started to eat salmon again. I think I started salmon back in 2022 actually, but especially when going out, I have salmon at places. Usually it would just be from me buying it. I started to have chicken a lot more often. I have eggs now damn near every day, and I started to introduce red meat and certain types of cheese back into my diet. The reason why I started introducing animal-based products back into my diet was mainly because I felt I was becoming way too restrictive when it came to being plant-based. In the beginning, it was fun. It was simple. It wasn't as overwhelming. But when I stopped eating the plant-based cheeses and stopped eating plant-based meats, it really left me more restrictive. And then I felt like I had to force myself to eat foods I didn't necessarily like, just to make sure I was having some type of variety or making sure I was getting nutrients that I was probably missing. And so one thing that I started to just be more mindful of with myself is asking myself, how does this food make my body feel, rather than trying to focus on any type of specific diet. So I don't follow any keto, paleo, carnivore, plant-based diet. I don't follow any of that. And I remember going through a phase where I was looking at a lot of carnivore diet content, not because I wanted to go carnivore, like I'm not a meat person. I was more so interested in how is it that certain people thrive off of one diet and then other people thrive off of another diet. And what I liked about the meat eaters is that their skin was flawless. Like their skin was so flawless that I'm just like, wow. But one thing that I thought about was like, number one, I'm not a meat person. Number two, I really like my vegetables and greens. And to think that I should go carnivore just so that way I could have clear skin, I'm like, I don't even, number one, know if that will work in my favor. And number two, like I never had any intention of doing it. It was just more so of just research information, of realizing how much, just because one thing works for one person, we automatically disregard how it could work for someone else. So it was a lot of meat carnivore eaters talking about how like vegan diet is bad, well, the plant-based diet is bad, and how vegetables are bad, and how this is bad. And I found it pretty funny because I'm just like, just because something doesn't necessarily work for you doesn't mean it won't work for someone else. Going on a strictly meat diet may work for you. That may be what your body may actually need. And you have a community that supports of going through that same thing of that is what you guys' body needs. But there's other people that thrive off of just eating vegetables and whole foods and not necessarily meat. There's other people that thrive off of eating a certain food more than others. And one thing that I just started to realize was like, I have to pay attention to what my body's telling me and not what people are online saying of what I should and shouldn't eat. And so I just started to think about that in terms of the foods that I was introducing. And then the reason why I stopped introducing plant-based cheese and then plant-based meat is because, number one, plant-based cheese, I've never found a good plant-based cheese, and I'm not going to be paying like $5-6 for a half-ass cheese that doesn't work the way that I want it. And then I am skeptical of the ingredients in it. And then when it comes to plant-based meat, it's basically a high amount of salt in it. And again, I don't know what's in it, and it's made by man. So when I started to introduce red meat again, the only reason why I did it was because I wanted to increase my iron levels, and I was trying to hope that I got that clear skin energy come my way. But I mainly introduced it mainly because I didn't want to take iron pills. I've always been iron deficient and I've always been anemic. But one thing I don't like is iron pills. It just doesn't work with my stomach, and I don't like pills. I would rather find anything that I'm deficient in a natural form before I take anything of pills. To me, that is just, I would rather try that. So I've been trying of introducing red meat of, I think it's like specifically the meat I'm introducing is like the burger meat from Costco. That's mainly what I've been having. But instead of having it as a burger, I had it as a burger the first time, and it completely destroyed my stomach. Like it was just not digesting well at all. So I will say, if you are someone who is introducing red meat specifically back into your diet and you haven't eaten it in a very long time, please have a smaller portion. Do not go all out and have a bigger portion. I'm telling you right now, it may upset your stomach. You may have a hard night that night. So I'm going to just say, when it comes to introducing certain foods, be cautious of how you reintroduce them back into your diet. So my goal of doing the red meat is to see how it increases how I feel. Like if I feel good about introducing it back, like does my body react negatively to it? And then the same thing goes with cheese. Like when it came to cheese, the reason why I stopped eating cheese because my body just didn't digest it well. But then I started doing more research of, instead of just cutting off cheese completely, because I love cheese. Like cheese was one of my favorite types of foods. And one thing I didn't want to do is just reintroduce it and then having the same problems that I had in the past. So I know it mainly comes from like being lactose intolerant. So I just looked up which types of cheeses had the least amount of lactose in it. And a couple that came up was Parmesan cheese and feta. So now I only mainly use Parmesan cheese and feta, and I've loved having it. Like my stomach hasn't reacted negatively to it. I love having it in my salads. It is so good in a salad and I enjoy it. And so another thing that I'm bringing into 2025 is is instead of feeling like I need to focus on any type of specific diet or avoid a whole group of specific foods, is monitoring how specific foods makes my body feel, and then making a decision of if I want to continue having it or if I need and want to remove that item from my diet. My next thing that I'm introducing is something that I find ironic of even saying, because I found it so annoying when people kept asking about it, and it is prioritizing protein. Like, I swear, when I had first went vegan, everyone kept asking, well, how are you going to get your protein? How are you going to get your protein? And to be honest, I didn't pay attention to any of that stuff before. I just knew that I was going to be able to get the efficient amount of protein I needed on a plant-based diet. That's how I felt. I didn't have any worry about not getting plant protein. I just never placed any emphasis on what protein did and what protein does. And when I was watching a lot of workout videos and I was starting to getting into growing and building and starting my fitness journey, one thing they kept talking about as well was protein. And I'm like, what is the deal with protein? Like, why does everyone keep mentioning protein so goddamn much? And then as I did more research and learning more about like why I wasn't getting the results that I wanted, one of the emphasis was not prioritizing protein as much. So a lot of what I did was I would prioritize a lot of fiber. Like, I ate a high fiber diet because it would fill me up for a long period of time. But then when I started doing my workouts, it wasn't really filling me up as much, and I found myself getting more hungry. So one thing that I started to do was started to prioritize my protein, but I did it in a way where I wasn't even trying to do it at the time. That was just when I was starting to introduce eggs again. And what I would realize is, like, anytime that I would have scrambled eggs, hard-boiled eggs, fried eggs, it would fill me up for a long period of time. And the same thing would happen when I ate chicken. It would fill me up for an extended period of time and give me energy. And I found myself having better results of what I wanted when it came to my fitness goals. And so at that point, I started looking into, I'm like, what are high protein foods? And then long and behold, eggs and chicken were one of the things that was coming up. And over time, what I've just started to do is prioritize protein and fiber in my meals. I feel like when I've started to do that, it just makes me feel full longer, and I also feel like I'm getting the nutrients that I need from the fiber of the foods that I'm eating with high fiber, with getting the results that I want when I eat protein. So one thing that I'm now also doing is finding a way of always prioritizing protein. So speaking of fiber and protein, that brings me to my next one, which is always having arugula and romaine in my fridge. So I used to always get mixed greens when it came to like making my salads, but then I ended up watching a video from Dr. Berg, and he was talking about how he always has for his salads arugula and romaine. And I thought it was an interesting combination because I really wasn't into arugula at the time. I just didn't like the taste of it as often, but I do like romaine, but I just don't like having just like a straight romaine salad. I like having some type of mixed greens. And so I was originally getting a container of mixed greens, of organic mixed greens when I did my grocery shopping. And then when he mentioned that combination, I thought of like, oh, that's an interesting combination. Let me try it. One day I did, and then I just never stopped that combination. I don't get the mixed greens anymore just because I feel like I get the fullness of the nutrients from the romaine and arugula. And when it comes to romaine, I could make like taco shells. I could do more with the romaine of if I need to use it in time. When it comes to my mixed greens, I'm pretty much stuck with just having to make a salad. But with the arugula, I can make a warm salad. I made that one time and it was so good. Or I could add it to my smoothies. With the mixed greens, I can have it to my smoothies, but it's just some greens in there that have more of a bitter taste to it. And then adding to it, it just makes the smoothie off. So another thing that I always make sure to have is some arugula and my romaine. And my last one is a fun one, and it is enjoying my processed food snacks, but being cautious of which ones I get and making sure I look at the ingredients in them. We have like a couple of processed foods in our freezer, and I don't even eat them. Like, they've been sitting there for months and I don't even eat them anymore. I have no desire to really have them, but they just stay there just in case I really don't feel like making anything and I eat them. The only reason why I don't really eat the stuff that we have anymore is because I feel like anytime I eat them, I'm still hungry after. So it just defeats the whole purpose of even eating them and then now adding on extra calories. But when it comes to my snacks, not all the time do I have the energy or the time or the ingredients to make a healthy snack. And I'm more of someone who tends to eat more of processed snacks than I do of eating processed foods. And so one thing that I've just been more relaxed on is being okay with enjoying the snacks that I like, but being conscious of the snacks that I pick up and how much I'm picking up. So I ended up like going on a little bit of a snacks binge buy, but I haven't really had the urge of eating them lately. I try to find the ones that I find that are the healthiest, but a couple of the snacks that I really enjoy of having are my Hippies, which I haven't had in so long, but the nacho ones is so good. I do have a problem with shrinkflation because I feel like this bag is smaller than what it was, but nonetheless, growing up, I really enjoyed cheese doodles. And over as I got into more of like learning about food and health, like looking at the ingredients in a regular cheese doodles, it just wasn't the healthiest, but I do like the ingredients in the Hippies one. I don't really find it as a major issue when it comes to those. Another brand that I like is Siete chips. I think they've been sold to one of like the wonderful corporate companies, and I mean that in the most sarcastic way possible, which is unfortunate. I understand why they did. Like, you build up the brand and now you're able to sell it for a hefty penny, but I hope the quality doesn't change, but it may actually just change. And the last thing that I also have is Simple Mills. So I really like their cookies, but I just don't get them as often. And I like their crackers. Again, I don't get them as often because I feel like you don't get a lot in the bag. But I mainly got the crackers just in case I wanted to make like an avocado, like guac dip, and I wanted to have some type of snack with it. So I'm really cautious of the types of processed snacks that I get, and I try to limit how much I get at one time. But I want to make sure that I still enjoy the foods that I like, even though I have like my own fitness goals that I'm trying to accomplish and health goals that I want to accomplish. I don't want to take away from the fact of like, there are certain things that may not be the healthiest, but I still do enjoy. And I feel like if I'm eating healthy at least 90% of the time, then I'm willing to sacrifice 10% for eating something that may not be the healthiest that I still enjoy, but being just cautious of the ingredients that's in that particular item. So those are the 5 eating habits that I'm bringing into 2025. Let me know which one you plan on implementing in your 2025, or if it's not something I mentioned that you have already started of what you're going to implement in 2025 for your healthy eating habit of the year. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, definitely check out this video where I talk about how I quit processed foods and made healthy eating extremely easy.